we see a man named Mason and a WP man named Samantha. They're a couple going through their daily routines. Later that day, they attend the wedding of Luke and Allison. Samantha, who's one of the bridesmaids, and Allison's sister, gives a little speech and then the party begins. Samantha has had a few drinks and feels encouraged to approach the man she's been eyeing all night, which is none other than James. However, this interaction can't happen because the rest of the bridesmaids come to take her to the dance floor. Luke takes a seat and talks to a woman named Olivia, who's James's date. She asks him why he's not dancing with his girlfriend. Luke simply says that it's because he's not into dancing. Luke goes to grab a drink for her. James is by the drinks table and without really knowing James, Luke tells him to go get the girl he wants. James takes his advice and goes to the dance floor to talk to Samantha. Luke returns to be with Olivia and they begin to kiss each other. And while James and Samantha are entering the room of a hotel, Mason jumps into the water with Olivia. After Samantha is done, she returns back to her boyfriend Mason, who asks her where she's been. Samantha has no problem telling that she was with James. Mason also points out that he had fun with Olivia. This interaction allows to see that they have a somewhat open type of relationship. The next day, we see Samantha working as a fashion designer. Suddenly she gets a call from her ex-boyfriend James. He asks her out and she agrees to meet him. When Samantha tells Mason about her plans, he seems totally fine with it and wants her to have fun. While Samantha and James are having dinner at a restaurant, she tells him about her open relationship with Mason. James is not really happy about this because he believes to be more like the traditional type of man. Mason gets invited by Olivia's friends to a party. He makes sure to call Samantha to let her know about this, but Samantha doesn't pick up since she's still on her date. Mason is having fun with a bunch of girls at the party. Olivia sees how he's with another girl and leaves them alone. Meanwhile, James explains to Samantha how he would be jealous if his girlfriend went out with another man. But Samantha tries to explain her different point of view on how she believes that jealousy comes from insecurity and she overcome that. And even though they share a passionate kiss, moments after James excuses himself saying that he will contact her when he grows out of his insecurity. The next day when Samantha is working, her coworker encourages her to call James. She calls him and invites him to go with her and Mason to an art walk. Mason is at a book signing for his new novel. He suddenly has to stand up to try to catch Olivia, who just entered the library. James wanted to make sure that everything was fine between them. Olivia keeps insisting that there's nothing wrong and he can go out with any girl he wants. After the art walk, things seem to go great between James and Samantha. James gives in and accepts to keep seeing Samantha. But she still lives with Mason, who doesn't hesitate to ask if she's falling in love with James. Samantha assures that she's not in love with him. Later we see Mason showing Luke that he finished writing his new novel. Luke is happy for him, but also warns Mason of how he should worry about James, since he's a more successful man. But James is not worried and instead just wants to celebrate. So they go to a strip club. When James gets home, it is very clear that Samantha is bothered by something which she wants to talk to him about. However, the moment is lost the minute Mason receives a call from Olivia, who sounds upset and asks if she can see him. Mason cheers her up and they get intimate. Samantha gets ready to go see James, but feels bothered by the fact that she can hear her sister with her boyfriend. Although she makes it clear to Olivia that everything's fine. The next morning, Samantha wakes up next to James. He's confused about what kind of future they could have, and right there Samantha reveals that she's pregnant. At the moment, James doesn't know how to react. But after the whole group gathers around for a poker night, he tells Samantha the reason why he's still interested in her despite her odd relationship. Which is that he feels so alive when he's with her because she's always so honest with him. and he truly loves her. Later, we see that Samantha tells the news to her sister Allison. Allison is shocked to know that her sister got pregnant so suddenly. And Samantha is still not sure about what she'll do, but she feels like she wants to have the kid. Then Luke tells Samantha about how Mason's book will be a success. But when he opens the door, he gets really mad to see Olivia and Mason having sex because Olivia is his sister. And he also comments on how the relationship between Mason and Samantha doesn't make up sense. Samantha gets in the way to avoid Luke hits Mason, but Mason has other plans. He reveals that Samantha is pregnant. Once Mason and Samantha have a more personal time, Mason says that he never wanted a kid, and Samantha confesses that she's in love with James. And everything ends in them being mad at each other. The next day, Mason needs to discuss a few things about his book. But Luke, who's his manager, can't take it any longer and leaves, saying that he can no longer work with him or even be his friend. But Mason won't stop chasing Olivia. In fact, he goes to a party just to see her and gets punched by the guy she's hooking up with. Olivia tells Mason that she always does that and that he shouldn't be jealous. But Mason is even willing to end things with Samantha just to be with her. However, Olivia wants nothing serious. The next day, Mason and James meet each other at a bar to have a conversation. James says that Mason lives in a fantasy and the life he wants doesn't work in this society. A woman comments on how men just want to get laid, and James replies that that's not always true because he truly loves Samantha. Mason is not sure about what they should do with this situation. Mason goes back home and makes a mess trying to find something. A ring he had for so long and never gave to Samantha. But this time he does give her the ring and asks her to marry him. But Samantha says she's not into the idea of marriage, and makes it clear to Mason that the baby she's waiting is not his. Mason feels relieved and they have sex. 5 years later, Mason is seen working as a teacher. He receives a letter from Samantha who's inviting him to the opening of her boutique. Mason attends and greets everyone from his past. But moment is cut brief when he sees that Samantha stayed with James. Mason also meets Samantha's son, who looks an awful lot like Mason. And like that, the bittersweet scene ends.